Good evening. I think sometimes, as direct as some things may seem, sometimes common sense isn't as common. So, what are some steps or measures that someone can take to prepare, say, for example, for a pitching or for an interview or as they want to go into a certain space career wise? What are some things they can like say, okay, for example, in composition writing, you need to have the intro, the body, and then the ending paragraph. What are some guiding points that are always there that we need to make sure we meet? And then, so three questions. That's the first. The
Yeah, sure.
second is, what does an outlier look like in Kenya, in Africa, and globally in the tech space? And what are some, this is the third question, what are some things that are tried and true in a formula that people can implement and work on to get to that level?
Okay. Okay. So I can take the first one.
What is her name? What does she do?
Yeah. Sure. Sorry. Okay.
My name is Mona Abebe. I am currently a student and working as an apprentice. I am very interested in the tech and fintech space and community. I had a fintech startup a couple of years ago. So now it's trying to reassess, rebuild, and then push forward, seeing how to best help the Kenyan space and market.
Thanks, Mona. Jack, before you answer that question, I just have a bit of some operational admin announcement. The owner of KCQ989Q, KCQ989Q, is that you, Jack?
Yeah, that's me.
Can somebody move the car for you? All right. Thanks for the car, Jack.
You're welcome.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's embarrassing. But anyway,
Maybe go take your car for a spin.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So the question you asked around, just do your homework for a pitch deck or for a yeah. So they have to have a valid driver's license. Oh, okay. No. Yeah. So my heart is beating right now. So, yeah. So anyway, you have to just do your homework, and then don't underestimate the power of a community. So if you're in the fintech space, you're going for a pitch, you're going to the PE fund guys, or the fund managers, always reach out to the community and figure out who else has done work or has pitched with them. So then you do your homework. I mean, of what the things they look out for, what are the things they like, even including interviews. Reach out to Clement on if you're doing one for Microsoft, ask him what kind of questions, how do they do it, watch YouTube videos, some of them are there. So just do your homework. That's all. I mean, there's no one. I can't tell you like there's an intro and this and this and this, because I mean sometimes they really are not that structured. But if you find out from 6 different people, for example, you'll find some commonality of how they do their thing, and so that's the best way of doing it. And then the last thing, when you go for your pitch or for your interview, relax. Relax. And it's a marathon, it's never a sprint. So it doesn't mean that you answered question 1 wrong, the whole exam is marked as 0. That's not the case. In fact, you could actually answer a lot of the questions wrong and still get the job. So never panic. Always just relax. I see a lot of guys in interviews, man, they're so tense. Yeah, I mean, you just relax. It's not that. And then if you don't make it the first time, I think after a couple of I think a month or 2, you're always allowed to apply back again. So just always just relax. Don't be too tensed up about it. And do your homework. Yeah. And then the second thing you asked was around an outlier. Okay, so it's all specific to the industry. I mean, an outlier in my books has 2 things. At least when I look at outliers, number 1, they have the skill sets, and number 2, they have a brilliant attitude. Those are outliers. If you have both, that you're willing to collaborate with other people, you're willing to admit that when you make a mistake, you're willing to seek advice when you need to, and you reach out to others and help others. Those are outliers for me. And those are the people who, in my books, get a lot more rewards than, just being a great coder, for example. You have to show that you have the right attitude as well and the right value system. So those are outliers for me. The last question was answered? Okay, cool. Right. You're welcome.
Titus.
Speaking to the mic.
Titus.
Yeah, I hope I'm clear. My name is Titus. I am a ICT student at the Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology by day, and a front-end developer at night. What is one product that you have ever built or been part of the production team and you felt you are not really celebrated, or we didn't get to know that Jack was involved in building this product? And the second question, how long will it take Google to adapt to the Web3 web architecture?
Okay. So those are heavy hitting questions. So the first one is, what's the one thing that I feel I wasn't given enough credit for? I think when you're a junior engineer, there are lots of interesting things you do, but you never get the credit for. So there are many of them. I can't think of any. Which is the one that pissed me off the most? Let me see. Back when I was younger. Okay. So I contributed to the library for JavaCard. You know JavaCard? So I did that many years ago, and the guy who actually posted the commit was my boss. So I was so pissed off because now it's used in, and so those of you who don't know JavaCard, you know what powers your SIM card right now? And bank, that chip you see there, most likely it's running JavaCard. The Safaricom SIM cards are running JavaCard as their applet for M-Pesa and a lot more. So back then we didn't even know that was what it's going to be used for. It was just something that we were doing as a POC, and we found it interesting. So the guy who actually did the commit was my boss, and so and everyone was like, "Wow, this is so awesome." Okay, now the service is deprecated, so good for him. But yeah, I think that was one of the things that pissed me off the most, especially when I came back home and I found out that everyone uses it. I was like, "Oh man, if my name was there, I've been telling guys, hey, look, my name is here." But yeah, anyway, it is what it is. The second question was, remind me. Oh, Web3.
Yeah, Web3.
Okay, so we have started. It's. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about it, but I think a lot of tech companies. Let me speak broadly because I may not necessarily answer you directly on that. But a lot of tech companies have started task forces to actually sort of not only upgrade their infrastructure and their way of doing things to Web3, but also provide the necessary tools for those who are building on Web3 to be able to leverage our capabilities. So if you talk about GCP Cloud, having a whole offering for Web3, etc. So I think it's a journey right now, and you can imagine to pivot, or no, let me call it, it's not a pivot, to actually move towards Web3 is a journey that takes a number of years, and a lot of engineering effort. So I think that's something that probably I'm sure if you Google, there's probably some white paper written by someone who's talking about how we are moving towards Web3. I don't know have it right, but if I find it, I can probably forward it to Jessica and she can share it with you. Yeah.
One last question from the audience. Interact with Jack later. Let him
Okay, sure.
comment later. Come up. Come.
So I can't be an MC.
Good evening once again. Mm-hmm. My name is Tom. I work in sales and marketing, and I have a startup. So one of the things I've struggled with the startup is creating a team. I had a startup which failed because the team I had at that time, they kind of got, let me say, quote unquote, jobs, and they left me hanging. Wow. So I said I'll never repeat that mistake again. So I'm always wondering, how do you create a team that believes in the idea and start working on it so that at least when you pitch, you have something viable? Because I don't like comparing ourselves to Silicon Valley, because when you go to Silicon Valley, if you have an idea, people just jump into it and start, helping you out. Like that's how it grows. But here we don't have something similar to that. So it's either I'm paying the developers or I do it myself, and I'm not. My background is computer science, by the way, but I shifted to marketing a bit. So I'm not a pro coder per se. But I'm always thinking, how do you create a team that can be working on that product for some time? Because as you said, I understood I really liked the idea that a business can take even 5-7 years, or rather a product to fruition. So I already understand that. So I need people that can be working on it slowly by slowly, and So I've always wondered, is there a way to create such a team and people can just believe in the idea and work together? Thanks.
Yeah, so obviously I'll answer a part of it, and I think also, Sam, I think you can contribute a little bit onto this question because you've actually lived it. But I'll tell you what, the people issue is a problem. It's a challenge across everyone, including even big tech companies like us. We lose people every day. I mean, I came from somewhere, right? I mean, so yeah, ha ha ha. So you find people is a challenge. I think from the few startups that I've interacted with and the ones that I'm involved in, having the right sort of mindset of your founding team is important. That they buy into the idea, they believe into it, and they're co-owners of it all. Now, I know we don't have a huge culture here of offering stock options to employees. Very few companies do. But that could be a way of getting buy-in that, look, if you invest in it, you're part of you're in the CR12, your name is there. Okay? And you own part of it. Because I'm sure you can't afford, as a startup, you'd rather invest more of your money into growing the product than to pay people salaries. I'll default back to the person who I learned a lot from in terms of business, and that's Dr. Mwange. And I remember the time when they couldn't pay salaries back then in the 90s. He said that he offered everybody, including suppliers, stocks of equity building society. He offered them stocks, including suppliers, to continue giving suppliers, because if they didn't, there was no salaries to be paid. There was no supplies that are gonna get. So he offered them shares, and a lot of them, because it was a community bank then, accepted it. Now, story goes that the people you see right now who are worth billions, because the stock has appreciated 35,000 times from the 90s, 35,000, are the guys who put in 100K, who are, because they're being paid maybe 20K back then, and so they're not being paid for 4 or 5 months. They said, okay, I'll leave my 100K inside their stocks. And now that's what they're worth. And so it's quite interesting to see that. I don't think there's one size fits all. For your situation may be different, but buying into the vision and having strong co-founders is so important, and especially in the core areas that you have someone. You don't have to give everyone stock options. Obviously, it's just the persons who you think are critical and for the success of this. It can't be you alone. And I think that's what my advice would be. And then at the same time, also just keeping the culture really, really friendly to them, because they're sacrificing a lot to be there with you. Sam, I don't know what else.
Again, the market will validate your idea. Let's say if I told you today we can disrupt M-Pesa, which I believe we can, and I said we're going to do it, but I don't have the money, but this is the code we need to write, people will probably jump at it because it's such a big, bold, audacious thing that people are willing to work nights. Who was working nights? To just get it to work. So having that big vision that you're communicating, we're gonna change, how we're gonna change the continent. We're gonna do something that is very attractive, gives you a lot of purchase, where someone can then say, just give me a living wage, and I'm happy to jump in. And then hopefully the market will soon validate that you actually.
All right. Young man, do you know why I said comment later? I want you to talk to Jack directly. I want you to interact with him. Make that effort. Jack has offered. If you're the best, reach out to him. Don't sit on opportunities, please, please, please. And I cannot stress this enough. People sit on opportunities right in front of them. The opportunities are there and then they will never come back. When an opportunity is right in your face, be aware, be self-aware. Notice them. Self-awareness is the best thing you can actually have as a human being. And my friend and mentor, Teddy Warrior, has shown me how to do that. So do not sit on opportunities. Listen, active listening, and being aware. There are so many opportunities that have been mentioned in this crowd tonight, in this audience. More than 20 opportunities for everyone in this room. I hope you have taken note of at least one or two of those opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jessica Colasso, tech entrepreneur and musician and public speaker. My NFT is right there. It's me, jessicacolasso.com. On my Instagram, Jessica Colasso. On my Twitter, if you want to know more about my journey in music and entrepreneurship. Some of the nuggets that I can summarize for tonight, and these are my own learnings. Jack's philosophy: be humble and hard work pays. It goes a long way. Another thing is you need to believe in yourself and be the best. He's told us the stories of how he actually had imposter syndrome. And actually that's something that we need to embrace as human beings, because that's you undergoing a metamorphosis of becoming the next best version of yourself. So embrace it. We need a reading culture on this continent, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot stress it enough. We need to create content. We need to create literature. We need to read the literature of our own local authors in this country and on this continent. Create a reading culture among yourselves. Book clubs. Read anything. Science. Literature. Romantic. No matter what it is, let's read. If you need a recommendation list, there are many people here who have read books, at least 5 books in a year, right, Jack? Let's read. Let's keep that critical thinking and analysis going on. Let's build ourselves as people, as human beings, and let's build a community and let's build our ecosystem. Let's tell our own stories, right? Right? Mm-hmm. You don't sound too sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. All right. Another thing is believe in yourself. Really, really, really believe in yourself. I think when James Mwangi approached you and told you to run Finserve, you were like, am I capable of doing this, right? So believe in yourself. Give yourself that chance that you can do it, because others see it in you, but give yourself that chance. And I'd like to ask mentors, coaches out there, people who are building the ecosystem, give the young people, the Gen Zs, a chance as well. They need us to coach them. They need our time. Spend time with them and give them the opportunities. Not only Gen Zs, upcoming professionals as old as Jack and I, and older, need that type of coaching. And just that group we call them our tribe, that we can get advice from. It's only from each other that we will learn locally, building local solutions, coming up with local advice, this community will not build itself. We will build each other as a village and a tribe. And then I cannot stress enough. Please be curious. Ask questions. If you're told, please open the screen and open that website, and you don't even ask why. Please set up the mic here and set it up that way. You don't even ask why. Keep on asking why, because it really helps you in your future life. Like as Jack said, big tech companies and companies, I am in the talent space. We're looking at how people problem solve. You have the hard skills, but how do you problem solve? If you just put the chair there and I'll be like, okay, earlier there was no problem solving. Everyone was sitting around that table and I'm like, Jack is here and you're facing him sideways. I'm like, yo, that's not cool. Come sit here. Yeah? That's a simple example. It's like, why are they sitting there? The audience is here. I cannot, and this is my personal advice, I cannot emphasize on being your best every time you do something. Incompetency is a pet peeve for me. I'm sorry to say so. And I'm like, every single time you do something, think of what was done well, what could have been done better, and how you can improve the negatives. Always improving on what you can do. And for the young people that are in the audience, and also people who are thinking of a career path, this is my way of, as an ecosystem leader, of paying it forward. I would like to give you advice on how to interview for companies like Google, Microsoft, Safaricom, and the rest of companies like Africa's Talking, startups, because I've been in this ecosystem for almost close to 15 years, and I can see what leaders are actually looking for. So if you need advice on what next, how to tackle an interview, please reach out to me. My Twitter handle is Jessica Colasso. My first name and then my last name, Colaco. And my email is jessicacolasso@gmail.com. I am more than willing to have a coffee chat with you. I'm giving you this opportunity. How many people reach out? That's up to you. I leave it to you. As I mentioned, almost 25 opportunities have been presented at this forum today. And with that, I'd like to invite Teddy Warrior, Africa's Talking's chief storyteller. Please give him a round.
I'm amused just because maybe they are sub-chiefs and others and all that. But thank you. I'm delighted to be here today. I just came from hospital and Jessica visited and some provided. so I'm thankful for that. But let me say a brief thing. Ngare, when you say your name Ngare, it amuses me because I also used to live next to David Anunda, Msewa Safo. And David Anunda always used to become number last, time bad all the time. So my friend Alex Nyingi there used to be my neighbor in Buruburu, and every single time we were rooting for David Anunda, but he was always time bad. Do you understand? Amalizi Safo. See that? So I want to say the first time I heard about Google, the name Google, a friend of mine called Nathaniel Choge sent me an invite to get a Google account. So I was very delighted about that. I was in the US when they first started. But I'll quickly go to a young African man called William Kamkwamba. How many of you know William Kamkwamba? So because of time, I'll just say what he did. He created a windmill using scrap material from his village in Malawi. So this is a remarkable village story because I also believe in the idea of building villages. If you noted, Sam said he came from a village. Ngare said he came from a village somewhere. So it seems there's something intrinsic in African villages, which people don't take advantage of, and that's where 75% of us come from anyway, and live as Africans. So there's something very interesting he said. When he was asked, what is Google? He asked, William Kamkwamba asked, is Google an animal? Because he had never heard of that before. You see that? But right now he's an engineer. He's a New York Times best-selling author. He was one of the pioneering students of the African Leadership Initiative Academy, where our former CEO is actually the boss. So I want to even just point out to the importance of community, because Jess was talking about community, but it's also a healthy community that all of us can build. So for my friend who is back there, his name is Alex Nyingi. But before I say that, I wanted to say two things I got from Google. When in the earlier days of Africa Stalking, our mentor used to be one CS Joseph Mosheru. And whenever he was the first and probably then the only Google employee in Africa. So when we would go to his office, apart from giving us Google swag, which I thought, Ngare, you're bringing for us, he would always tell us, just listen to this. He'd always tell us, less is more. Do you follow that? So it's a very basic Google principle, less is more. Because if you ask an African, I'm also an African, to write a small letter, somebody wants to ask you for, say, $100 or 10,000 shillings. They'll write for you 2 pages worth of an email. Then at the end, they said, could you give me 10,000 or 100? Meaning they have wasted your time. But some has an idea, even from the early days, because here you're spoken about depth instead of breadth. So some believes in the idea of depth. In other words, specialization. So in the earlier days of the company, they would ask, some of the other leaders would ask something, then some would say, oh, let just Teddy do what he needs to do. Essentially, it's important for the talent to do what they are built to do, so that we can build a more powerful and robust ecosystem and country. So, Ngare, what I'd ask you, if you allow me, the nuggets that you said very many important things, but I'm not able to summarize them now. I'll invite you to be in a book called Spirit of Africa, because you share the essence of what is truly African. You went to the States, but you came back home to build Africa. You see that? That's a very important thing that as many kids as possible need to know. And for my material reason why I came here, so my neighbor from the time I was a child is called Alex Nyingi. And in Swahili, Nyingi means many or a lot. But in Luo, a lot means vegetables, which have been instructed with the doctors to eat a lot of. So Alex Nyingi is the Emerging Markets Public Affairs Manager, Government Affairs and Public Policy, GAPP at Google. Seems you guys like very long titles. So here, I'm just the chief storyteller, and I think that's very definitive. And by the way, since he went also to a school abroad, some went to a school abroad, whenever I was helping people apply to college in the US, almost 20 years ago, I always used to tell him, keep it super simple, or the thicker the file, the thicker the student, so the admissions board in the other schools, not in a bad way, not that I'm insulting people, but if you write for me so many things, people want summarized things so that they can, because they're looking through almost 10,000 applications. So for the ones who have been offered by Jessica here, if she's offered to coach you in terms of how to write your CVs or how to go for interviews, please take her up on that. My own mantra in life is carpe diem, and carpe diem means seize the day or seize every moment. And because some of the nuggets too that he spoke about, he actually spoke about very deeply profound things that I'll actually summarize what he said so that I can share with anybody of you who wants. And because he kept on insisting on the idea of learning. But he also said in a certain company, people were given equity or stock. So I was one of the people in the earlier days when Sam and S10 began the company. I was also given stock. And I don't think probably myself and Graham were too poor because of the stock that we were given. So we invested in his dream, but also he invested in our lives. It's a very important thing because the Swahili say, mkono mtupu haulambwi. He couldn't tell us to give him part of our lives to build the company. then there's nothing in exchange. See that? Because exchange is no robbery. But if you have me do your thing and you're not giving me anything in return, that's called robbery. And that's what Africans need to learn not to do. You see that? If you put your heart, mind, and soul into a company, put everything you have into the company or into the business, then it will grow, because essentially for the first 7 years, it's 7 years of famine. But that 7 years of famine, if you do it right, it will be followed with 7 years of plenty. Do you understand? But this discussion we'll do another day, because I want to introduce my friend. So Ngare, thank you, and I'll seek you out so that I could summarize your amazing story. So when I was growing up, Alex Nyingi, we had I grew up in Buruburu Phase 1. Then it was a shining estate of middle-class people in Nairobi. So we had Kamba neighbors, Maasais, Luos, what have you. So my father had a son, who is of course my brother. He was called Evans, but because he was a boy, he was called a boy. I want you to catch this drift, because I want to help you to connect things, because that's the whole idea about community. Connecting things that you have so that you can build something new. You see that? My neighbor next to my house was at number 149. Our house was 150. Was Kamba. He was called Joshua. So they call him Mboi. I want you to follow me then. Then my other neighbor at house number, is it 139 or 140, Alex? 137, it was directly across ours. So his mother and my mother went to the same Jumuiya. They call him Boy. You see that? So Boy now is actually working at Google. But before that, he actually worked at Microsoft. So in essence, talent is always rewarded. And I say that his title is Emerging Markets Public Affairs Manager, Government Affairs, and Public Policy. So Alex, given that you've worked at Microsoft and you've worked now at Google, we might want to invite you to work at Africa Stocking. But we're inviting you to come and say something. Come and share what you do. Thank you, guys. And please, if you guys have any question, you can always send me an email or Jess, so that the questions which are not answered could be answered. So please share your name and what you do.
Thank you, Teddy. And I think he's done quite a worthy introduction, right from when you were literally almost from birth. Yeah? Yeah. So, and Teddy and I have quite a bit of an interesting history. We meet up every so often, bump into each other. Most recently, we bumped into each other at Arboretum. I think he was just out there taking a walk. Same thing for me. The interesting thing for me is that I was actually taking a walk with my manager. She'd come into town. We had an offsite with a bigger team, and we thought of how can we get to know each other, because it was the first time I was meeting her in person. When I joined the company, she was on maternity leave. So I'd actually joined into the function, and for about 6 months, was sort of figuring out things around. So it was sort of like a good way to get to know each other in a more informal way. Because she did my first interview, but I think a week later or so, she went into maternity leave. So more about myself. The title sounds long, but essentially what it is I work within the, let me say that since Jack was here, the non-tech side of the company. So there are people in Google as well, or Microsoft and the likes, who almost know no tech. The only thing we know how to do is send emails and join Google meetings, and that's it. And maybe talk about the tech a little bit. So for me, my role within public policy is mostly looking in terms of how do we ensure that there is a favorable environment for tech to thrive. Yeah, because technology cannot thrive in a vacuum. It won't. You can have the greatest of tech that you've designed in your computer, in your mind, or an app, but it still has to interface with the real world. Yeah, and if in the real world, there are certain rules we have to conform with. Yeah, some are written, some unwritten. Most of the time, I like to say I work within the regulatory environment. Why I like to use the environment is because there is written and unwritten rules. So it's sometimes we are not looking only to ensure that policies are not put in place, but you're also looking to ensure that there's favorable policies. And you know that for people in the tech space, there's a lot of mystery about it. Yeah. And a lot of times for people in policy, especially the ones who don't have a background around tech, most of them lean towards let's put in the regulations and then fast. Yeah. And one thing we know is that if you approach it from that point, a lot of times we stifle innovation. Yeah. We sort of make you guys fit within a certain space. And some of the greatest technology come from, I don't know, not even out of the box, no box at all, or something of the sort. So principally, that's the role I play. When you talk about emerging markets, it's just in terms of how the company is structured. So we have the market that covers Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and North Africa, because most of the time we sort of North Africa, we have it off from the rest of Southern Africa. We also go further to looking into countries like Israel, Turkey, Ukraine, Russia. So that's sort of like the geographical region that I work with. And it's quite exciting for me because previously I worked a lot within Sub-Saharan Africa, and especially when I was in Microsoft. And for me, it gave me a chance to sort of like have a view of other parts of the world. Because now with tech, we really, when you talk about community now, yeah, the community you're talking about, it's not so much about we are next to each other. It's really, sometimes I'll say it's a community because you have common interests, yeah? You have common ambitions, you have common pains, yeah? Whatever is happening in other parts of the world, it's really affecting us in one way or the other. The same way we'll say, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, yeah? It's making us, yeah, not have unga. Or most of us discovering that that's where most of our unga comes from, and not from North Rift. So I think for me, that's really, it's been quite exciting. Yeah, I hope I'll get a chance, as Teddy said, to maybe share a bit more. I think I'm one of those people who say it's pretty hard to say how do I define my career, because what I do now, I don't have a background in law. I don't have a background in technology, but I find that's a space I work. Yeah. So I look a lot in terms of what is the technology, and what is the rules that we need to work with. Yeah. Or what are the rules that we need to either bend or we need to find ways to amend. But I think that's the dynamic, the uniqueness about the world we live in. And I think when Jack talked about the universities, yeah, it's a huge challenge for them. How do you prepare for this kind of people who are going to a world that you don't know? The example of the guy, and it was a really good example, the guy who said, I think during the day he's a student and he's, I was a bit worried he might say at night is a night runner, but anyway. Yeah, but that's the way to do it, yeah? That's really what defines you. You don't wait for 4 years of study, and then that's when you think about, I need to start looking for Jessica, Alexa or Jessica to start helping me write my CV. You start writing your CV the very first day you get into college, yeah? That's the time you start writing your CV. And it's because of the sum total of the experiences you collect. You don't wait for that and then start saying, I need to find a job. Yeah, I need to get attachment. By the time you're finishing your 4 years, you should literally be having 4 years of experience. Yeah, alongside your study. But anyway, I think I'm digressing. I was just supposed to introduce myself. Really happy to join you, Teddy. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to us working together.
Thank you. So just I'll just like actually to read something. So when I met him when I met Alex at Arboretum, what he forgot to say that I was donning a swanky bowl African hat, and his boss thought I was Mzamo Masito. Mzamo Masito runs Google Africa, I think, is part of marketing, and she literally thought I was that guy. So I was amused by that, and that's why on looking on my left, I actually saw Alex. So I'm happy about that, and Jessica and also Ngare, they have talked about so many books, and I want to say that a lot of the leadership here at Africa Talking also read a lot of books. They just don't read the books; they actually apply the books. So there's a difference. So people who want to be seen reading books, want to have stacks of libraries, but they don't apply that in their business or in their lives. So hopefully, even as Jessica mentioned, I hope at some point we'll start a book club so that we can discuss some of these books. But something that I want to just conclude with, a while back I'd been invited by Eric Schmidt to join schmidtfutures.com, but COVID happened, so I didn't join that. So he was part of the CEOs for Google for the last 10 years. So there's a fantastic book that he has written called $1 Trillion Coach, The Leadership Playbook of Silicon Valley's Bill Campbell by Eric Schmidt, Jonathan Rosenberg, and Alan Eagle. And the values that they expose in this book is honesty, humility, perseverance, diligence, and eagerness to learn. And those are values that could help any entrepreneur or any tech builder. And the other thing also that at some point that I was taught by Joe Mushero when still mentoring us, he always said, ask questions, but most importantly, also ask the right questions. So I hope you guys will ask Sam and Ngare and Jessica the right questions, and you won't run after this to try and go and sleep or have your dinner at home, because this is an amazing resource for Africa, and we have opened it up so that it becomes the center of gravity for the tech ecosystem in Africa. We're just beginning. Like 12 years ago, we began Africa's Talking. We're beginning this. Jessica is very able. Sam is very willing and also able. And we're inviting you to come to the table so that we can build a great and new Africa. So God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Teddy. Teddy, don't go. Teddy, I need you here. I need Teddy and Sam and Graham up on stage. Jack, please come. On behalf of as they come on stage, on behalf of the Africa's Talking team, I would like to thank you, the audience and community, for coming here tonight and spending a good 3 hours, close to 3 hours actually, just listening to the conversation tonight and this evening. I'd also like to thank the Africa's Talking team, Sam, Teddy, and Graham, for the support that they've given me to organize thought leadership conversations monthly, and even allowing me to actually work out of the space anytime that I want together with my team during the week. I think this is true collaboration from the ecosystem. And I'd like to thank our guest, Jack Ngare, or as we call him, Daktari Daktari Leopard, for giving us time this evening. To share his wisdom, experience, not only about working in big tech, but his life story and opportunities that everyone at this forum has given us. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to hand over to Sam to say something and give Jack a small gift.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think I'm just excited to be 1 degree of separation from the CTO of Google. I think that's, I don't think we should take that for granted. Like literally we could whisper something in his ear and then the Google CTO will be like, what? So guys, if you have ideas, I know I've been pitching ideas at him. So if you have ideas, and he's the ideas guy, I mean, that's his job at Google. So if there's anything that we'd like to collaborate, I think we have a fantastic community. So we'd love to be your idea factory. And maybe then there's now Android in Canva, like you said, or, you know, whatever you think that we can whisper in the CTO's ear. Because these guys can change our lives, they really can. So thank you so much for taking the time, and Africa is talking.